Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Big Game Bound. We're into week 14 of the NFL season, and things just keep getting stranger and stranger. Let's check out the playbook, what we've got lined up for this week's show. Jarrett Payton joins us. He'll help break down that Vikings-Buccaneers game, one of three huge games this week. Bills and Steelers, also Chiefs and Dolphins. We'll check in with our correspondents on those games. Our big guest is throwing guru Tom House. He's working these days with Tom Brady and Drew Brees, two guys that'll be headed to the Hall of Fame. And we'll check in with the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White from Las Vegas. We'll start with the insights of Jarrett Payton. He joins us every week from Chicago. Jarrett, the Jets basically gifted a win to the Raiders on Sunday. Was that the definition of a tank for Trevor Lawrence, or did defensive coordinator Greg Williams lose his mind and then his job by calling zero coverage in that situation?
Well, I'm telling you, everybody wants Trevor Lawrence, but when I think about it and you look at Greg Williams, you know, I was looking back at seeing what Adam Gase was talking about after the game, and he was just really talking about that, you know, making the switch and firing Greg Williams was the best thing for his football club. But also, he also mentioned as well, Jack, that there was an opportunity to call a timeout. So if you're the head coach, you don't see, you know, your defense lined up the way that you want them lined up, or you think there could be a change, then you make that timeout. You take it. So to me, it just speaks volumes to everything that's going on with the Jets. But I'm still not trying to put this on just Greg Williams, because right now he's the scapegoat. Adam Gase, he's very lucky to be able to make that decision. But still, he has got to take the timeout if that's not what he likes. And I don't know if Trevor Lawrence can help what's going on with the Jets anyway.
Meanwhile, the Giants pull off that stunning upset of the Seahawks without their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones. Who do you like in the NFC East right now, Giants or the Washington Football Club, who just upset the Steelers?
Oh, man, I've been mulling over this one all night long. It's so tough. You see what both teams are doing, and I think they're both similar. I know everybody wants to crack jokes about the NFC East, but when you look at both teams, they're doing it pretty much similar ways, running the football and playing good defense. And you look at the teams that, you know, both the Giants and Washington beat. You got Giants who ended up beating, you know, a Seahawks team. And then also as well, you see Washington being able to beat an unbeaten at the time Steelers squad. And I think one of the biggest things, as people were talking about both teams, was could they beat a team with a winning record? Well, they both have that underneath their resume now. It's just going to see who can run the football and also play defense on a consistent basis. But Alex Smith, anytime you're bleeding through your sock, you find a way to win, you always get a thumbs up for me, so I might have to go with Washington.
All right, is something amiss with the Seahawks right now?
Yes, there's a lot going on right now, but I think the biggest problem is the performance and the play of Russell Wilson. And there's certain, you know, teams around the league, Jack, where you look at a quarterback and how he plays, and then also, you know, how that affects the whole entire team. I think a lot of people were looking at, you know, the Seattle defense and trying to figure out, well, this is not the Legion of Boom anymore. But I think Russell Wilson, early in the first half of the season, he was masking a lot of the issues that were happening on this football club because he was making plays. He was throwing touchdown passes. He was taking care of the football. Right now, this second half of the season, he hasn't been the same. So I think that's a big reason why we're seeing Seattle not be able to take that step forward. But if there's anybody in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position, that can turn things around, it's Russell Wilson. I will never bet on him.
All right, Browns have won 4 in a row for the second time this season. On Sunday, Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdown passes in a win over the Titans. What do you make of Cleveland?
Well, right now, I'm all in on Cleveland right now. Kevin Stefanski has really changed the culture with that Browns squad. And, you know, you look at Baker Mayfield as well, the confidence. He talked about it, the confidence in the whole entire ball club. And I think the offensive line as well has been phenomenal, being able to protect Baker, to be able to make the plays that he needs to make. And so now you're starting to see them a little bit more rejuvenated on the offensive side of the ball, and they're having fun as well. When you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you got a running game, you can win games, and that's what it's all about. And then on the other side, Myles Garrett in that defense, man, they're ferocious. And I think that's what you want, especially at this time of the year, is you start winding down. Can you play a balanced game of running the football, making the passes when you need to, and then also on defense being able to stop people? Right now, that seems like the recipe that the Browns have, and they're fun to watch.
Jarrett, Minnesota Vikings have won 5 of their last 6. This week they travel to Tampa for a crucial game against the Bucs. Win, and they have the edge over the Bucs for the wild card. What changed in Minnesota?
Man, you know what? I don't know. Everybody was talking about this team at the beginning of the year, Jack, about trying to figure out who this team was. And, I think a lot of it is Kirk Cousins. I mean, you look at what he's done since, like taking care of the football and also being tied right now with, I think you look at coming off of week 8, I think you look at him and Patrick Mahomes being tied for touchdown passes right now, number 2 in the league since that point. And that's right there is so huge. They got receivers to be able to go up and make plays. Dalvin Cook has been banged up, but he's still rushing the football. I mean, any time that you're carrying the ball over 30 times and you're getting over 100 yards, you're controlling the game on the ground. And defensively, they found a little spark. And, this is what you need. And for teams that started off badly and find a way to be able to figure it out, it seems like Minnesota right now is figuring out a little bit. Still, though, the team that they're trying to chase in the division is the Packers, and that's never an easy task.
Well, the biggest game in Week 14 takes place on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Steelers and Bills, and we'll start in Buffalo, where Josh Reed does a great job covering the Bills. The Dolphins, Josh, don't appear to be going anywhere. The Patriots seem to have put it together. How big is this game now against Pittsburgh for the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big one as far as they set out the ultimate goal being win the division, and it gets them one step and a big step closer to that number one goal is finally dethroning the Patriots at the top of the AFC East. You mentioned it there. The Dolphins are kind of, what are the Dolphins? Nobody's quite sure. It looks like the Patriots are hitting their stride. And until the Patriots are completely mathematically eliminated, Bills fans will be staring over their shoulder until that day comes. But this is a big one. And I mean, clearly, a little bit of shine knocked off of it because the Steelers lose their first game. I think a lot of Bills fans and maybe even a few of the Bills players wanted to see the Steelers come in here with an undefeated record and a chance to give them their first loss.
Last year, the Bills were 9-3 through 13 weeks, just like they are now. Then they closed out the season with 4 losses in 5 games, including the playoffs. Has Sean McDermott changed anything to help this team finish stronger this year?
Well, it's not Sean, it's Josh Allen. I mean, it's the quarterback. He is a completely different player. Keep in mind, last year's 9-3 record was built on one of the best defenses in the NFL. They were allowing 16 points per game last year. This year's 9-3 record is built on one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. Josh Allen now, 26 touchdown passes, just 8 interceptions. There were a list of like check boxes, a list of boxes going into the season where you wanted to see them kind of check them off as the season went on. One of them for Josh Allen was win a primetime game, Monday Night Football. The Bills had not won a game on Monday Night Football since 1999. So that 49ers game, we talked about exercising the demons. I mean, that's what Josh Allen did. He goes out and throws 4 touchdown passes, 375 yards. And I'm telling you what, those aren't his best numbers of this season. But I tell you, he looked so poised and confident in the pocket. Everything he did was with a purpose. He really, this Steelers game is going to maybe be a step in the direction of Josh Allen getting back into the MVP conversation. They go out and knock off the Steelers. He gets back into that. Josh Allen is the reason that this team won't stumble to the finish line.
Yeah, and this year they're giving up 25 points a game as opposed to the way they were last year. So, yeah, he's had a fantastic season, and they just look so confident. Running-wise, though, Moss, the early fumble, Singletary's numbers have dropped off from his rookie year. What's the level of concern about this running game?
Well, Sean McDermott was asked on Tuesday about Zach Moss's fumble and how, after that fumble, you didn't really see him for a quarter and a half, 2 quarters until late in the game. Then he kind of put him back in. Typically, Sean McDermott gives non-answers for answers. He's very much out of the Bill Belichick tree when it comes to that stuff. But he flat out said, and I was a little surprised, he said, look, you can't play if you put the ball on the ground. You just can't. And he said, look, the reason I put him back in is because I wanted to test him and see that if he fumbled and was taken out of the lineup and was asked to go back in, if he could mentally forget that and go back in and be effective again. So, you know, Sean McDermott playing, I don't know if mind games is the right word, but definitely testing the mental toughness of his rookie running back. Devin Singletary had a decent game. The Bills have decided that their game plan and the way they're going to attack defenses is going to be different week to week. This isn't a Patrick Mahomes team that's going to say, look, you know what, we're going to throw for 400 yards no matter who's on the other side of the ball. 2 weeks ago when they beat the Chargers, remember, they ran for 170 yards. A month and a half ago when they beat the Patriots, they ran for 190 yards. Now, that hasn't been the case most of the season. Most of the season they've relied on Josh Allen to throw for over 300 yards, a couple of over 400-yard performances. And it's worked out. So that's kind of the way they're going to go. I mean, if they think that they can exploit a team with the pass, that's what they're going to do. They think they have a better shot at winning a game by running the ball, they're going to do it that way.
One of the best matchups in Week 14 is in Miami, where the Dolphins, the 8-4 Dolphins, host the Kansas City Chiefs, who right now look like they're in pretty good shape to get that bye in the AFC. For a preview of that matchup, we call on Rob Collins in Kansas City. Rob, we're not used to seeing the Chiefs win ugly, but they did on Sunday against Denver. What was Andy Reid's mood after a win like that?
Andy was subdued, you know, pretty much how Big Red is. But I'll tell you what, Chiefs fans are starting to get a case of the Tuscaloosa blues. You know, when Alabama doesn't boat race teams, all the Crimson Tide fans get a little chippy. Well, a little bit of that's going on right here in Chiefs Kingdom. I mean, how soon we forget. It's been 50 years since Chiefs won the Super Bowl before last year. So Chiefs fans, we're spoiled, man. Let's just face it. Don't expect this team to lose, and they expect them to win big, not just graze on by. Coach Reid said they have to get better. He gave credit to the Broncos for a great game plan, talked about parity in the league, says he needs to do a better job, and he does, especially in the red zone. The Chiefs are struggling in that category, 0 for 4 against the Broncos, and, you know, they got to get that figured out, 0 for 7 if you go back to the Bucs game.
Yeah, that's a little surprising when you've got Mahomes and all those weapons, including Travis Kelce, who became the first tight end in NFL history to post 5 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards receiving. When all is said and done, is he potentially the greatest ever to play the game at that position?
I believe so. If he continues the current pace, he may very well lay claim to that title. I mean, the dude is like Ric Flair out there on the field. He's every coach's dream, every defensive coordinator's nightmare, and he's supplying plenty of woo every single game. He's impossible to cover with a linebacker. Even corners have a hard time staying with 87 in red. You want to know why? Just ask Elijah Holder, who's still trying to figure out what time zone he's in after that grown man stiff arm on Sunday. Think about this also, Jack. Kelce is number 2 in the league in receiving yards after the Denver game. He only needs 264 yards to break the single-season mark for tight ends. He should do that easily by season's end.
Yeah, if he stays healthy. Tyreek Hill had another backflip into the end zone touchdown catch. This one was called off because of a penalty. But what does it say about him as a route runner that he's been able to do that more than once in a season?
Yeah, he is so good as a route runner, gets so wide open. I'm still surprised that he didn't think he caught that ball that was kind of juggled and jostled around, that kind of hugged up against his shoulder pad. When he came back to the sideline, he told Coach Reid he just mistimed it. He didn't think he brought it in. That might actually be the first time a receiver admitted he didn't catch a ball. And we were all surprised here that the Chiefs didn't review it. Coach Reid, of course, said they'll do better next time. But Tyreek's route running over the past few years has vastly improved. You know, the cheetah's pretty good for a return specialist, right? That Jalen Ramsey quote is still fueling Hill. He still uses that to this day from 2018. I mean, dude doesn't have a chip on the shoulder. My man's still carrying the entire bag of chips out there on the field. He's providing salsa, guacamole, and slathering sour cream all over defenders, man. So Tyreek's out there feasting on people, especially if they get their hips turned the wrong way, they lean the wrong way, he's gone.
Rob, the Dolphins are 8-4. How much are you looking forward to this quarterback matchup? And does Mahomes crank it up another notch to show Tua a thing or two?
I believe he does. You know, the Super Bowl MVP is returning to that magical place in Miami where he cemented his legendary status in Chiefs Kingdom to take on the young lefty. The NFL is going to try to build this matchup between the two young stars, but with Tua coming off injury, I'll be looking to see how often defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo blitzes. You know, Miami likes to bring the heat too. They're rated about 40%. I believe they're about 4th in the league, but doing that against Mahomes, that's going to get you beat. And it might get you fired, Greg Williams. If the Dolphins bring the heat against Mahomes, they'd be knocked out early. You know, they may get knocked out real fast, like a first-timer doing shots on South Beach there in Miami. So I expect some blitzing, but I expect Mahomes to put on a show. I think the Chiefs are kind of like an NBA team right now that's already in the playoffs. They're just coasting a little bit until it gets to prime time. Then they're going to release everything.
All right, well, you only one team this year gets a first-round bye in each conference. How determined are the Chiefs to make sure they're that team in the AFC? You can't coast too much from here.
No, they are determined, especially after the Pittsburgh Steelers losing, right? So that gives the Chiefs the inside track in my mind. I believe the Chiefs are going to win out, and I believe that Pittsburgh will lose maybe 1, if not 2 more games. They got to get the running game going on in Pittsburgh because Ben Roethlisberger's arm looks fairly dead to me. They got a tough schedule coming up. I think they're going to get beat by Buffalo. Who knows what Cleveland's going to bring them? Indianapolis is a good team. And for the Chiefs, going down to the Big Easy, that's their hardest game left on the schedule. I think they'll beat Miami, and then you have New Orleans, and then you finish with Atlanta, and then you have the Chargers. So we know nothing comes easy down the Big Easy unless, of course, you're looking for beads. I mean, those are easy to get. But their Chiefs are hoping that Who Dat Bayou Voodoo stays away next Sunday as they chase the Steelers for that #1 seed.
Well, I get the feeling we'll be talking about that matchup again next week. Rob, thanks for joining us. Our big guest this week is one of the premier throwing coaches in football and baseball. He's worked with future Hall of Famers Drew Brees and Tom Brady, still does. Tom House joins us from San Diego, or near San Diego. Tom, you're a professional baseball player. How did you develop this niche?
Well, I'd like to say it was well thought out. It wasn't. The football came about when I was a pitching coach in the San Diego Padre organization way back when. The head trainer on the big league club, Dick Dent, had pitchers throw footballs to do their running and just kind of break the monotony of playing catch with a baseball. And it turned out that you can't throw a football wrong mechanically and make it spiral. And because it's heavier than a baseball, there's some conditioning involved, strength training involved. And when we actually got the ability to measure it at 1,000 frames a second in 3D motion analysis and do the EMG testing for the strength building, it was just a super cross-specific training device. So long story short, I borrowed it from Dick Dent and turned it into a pretty cool operation.
How difficult is it to walk into a session with a Tom Brady or Drew Brees and pick out things that they're doing wrong that you can fix?
Well, that's really a great question. The both of them were Hall of Famers before I met them. And the stuff that we do, when you're that good, these elite guys aren't looking to get 5% better or 4% better. They're like 1% every day is what they shoot for. And sometimes it's a mechanical flaw. Sometimes it's a functional strength issue. They're getting in a deficit strength-wise. Sometimes it's mental, emotional. And sometimes it's recovery, trying to get the body to bounce back from a Sunday afternoon. So it's all those things. And, we're fortunate that the people I pal around with, and then the 50 years I've been in the game as a professional pitcher or coach, we have stuff that we can offer these guys that help them a little bit.
I know you also work on the mental part of the game in these sessions. How does a quarterback or a future Hall of Fame pitcher, how do you make them tougher mentally?
The one thing we're finding out is that the elite guys, they talk about getting in the zone and these white moments where the world just slows down for them. And we're actually able to measure through the technology we have with Mustard. It's called Focus Band. we're noting that with the elite guys, the crazier things are, the smoother they get. And when you put words to it, the more input, the more stuff that's going on, the simpler their brains work. Where thinking is inversely proportional to the stimulus of the environment. So the crazier it gets, the more they turn it over to their autonomic, their subconscious. And the talent they have and the preparation that they've gone through to reach that allows them to take those crazy moments with 70, 80,000 people screaming at them and making it like a walk in the park. That's what's special about them.
You've mentioned Mustard, your app that you guys are developing now to help reach a broader base like Little Leaguers. What's the thing coaches should be teaching young pitchers?
Well, if I was asked that, 25, 30 years ago, I really couldn't give you a great answer. But what I can tell you now, based on our research, is that throw, and throw some more, but only pitch relative to your age, in the workloads that doesn't take your arm apart or bother you in strength issues. In other words, manage the workloads and don't specialize. If I was talking to every parent of a youngster out there right now, the more sports they participate in without specializing, the greater they're going to be able to have their neuroplasticity, which is a big way of saying the nervous system is capable of learning and doing more. So if in today's world, don't specialize. If you're a young pitcher, throw a lot, but only pitch during the season and make sure that you're not throwing too much off the mound. The only unnatural thing about pitching is the mound.
Tom, my first recollection of you was catching Hank Aaron's 715th home run. What was it like being part of such an important moment in sports history, and what did you do with that ball?
Well, I got really lucky. You just brought up the really cool thing about my baseball career. That was the highlight of my major league career. I mean, I pitched for almost 9 years, very kind of under the radar, but catching Henry's home run actually got me in the Hall of Fame. And it's every memorabilia thing and every dinner I go to, it's what the host brings up. But we had decided before the game started what our territories would be. And where I was, set up behind the fence out in the bullpen out there, Al Downing threw the pitch, Henry hit it. If I would have stood still, it would have hit me right in the forehead. But as luck would have it, I caught it, ran it in, gave it to him, and you know the rest. I'm surprised you did your homework. That's awesome.
I watched it. It was just one of those "where were you" moments, and you were right there. Did you reach home plate with that baseball before Hank Aaron did?
No, everybody was actually in a big huddle around he and his mom. They were hugging each other. There were tears in their eyes, and I kind of broke through the crowd and reached up and put it in front of his face, and I said, "Here it is, Hank." And he took it from me and looked me in the face and said, "Thanks, kid." I'm not sure at that point in time he even knew who I was, which didn't hurt my feeling at all because I was literally a kind of a non-entity. But that kind of gave me a feeling. That was, of all my major league years, 1974 was my best year. And I think that kind of set the season off because no matter what I did between the lines, I could actually have the big lie be true where I said I caught Henry Aaron's 715.
Kenny White is the Wizard of Odds. He's an odds maker, sports market analyst. You can see him on CBS Sportsline. He's the author and publisher of Kenny White's College Football Power Ratings. You can get that in a PDF or 3-hole binder. He also predicts the final score for every college football game, basically tells you what the odds and the total should be for each game. And he joins us every week from Las Vegas. Kenny, you're in Vegas. What's the general mood on the Raiders right now? In the last 2 weeks, they got clobbered by the Falcons and needed the Jets to implode to avoid that embarrassment.
Yeah, I tell you, the locals are happy they won the game, but, you know, at the betting windows, those betting, and it has been big. The Raiders get more money here in Vegas than any other market, and it followed from the Golden Knights. Last couple of years, Golden Knights have had so much success. People love betting the game, going to the game and watching. Even if they don't go and they watch it at home or they watch it in the sports book, there's so much money on the local team and their success, you know, kept putting money. It was like an ATM machine for a while. So the Raiders started off here, same way. People started betting the Raiders, and they've been successful betting them. So a little unhappy they didn't cover last week, a little unhappy they got destroyed by Atlanta. But overall, I think it's been very optimistic, and at 7-5 right now. They're the 9th seed, 1 seed out of the playoffs. They got a little work to do in the last 4 games, but everybody's happy in Vegas about the Raiders.
What was the worst thing that happened to bettors over the weekend, Kenny?
Yeah, I would say, you know, a lot of people were on the Bears. They got a lot of players back. They thought the Bears were going to beat Detroit, and that was a tough one. The Lions getting 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter to win the game straight up. The other one, Seattle, was a heavy public game. They piled on. The Seahawks thought they would easily beat the Giants without their quarterback, Daniel Jones, but boy, the Seahawks did not show up in that football game whatsoever. So those were 2 bad losses for the public.
The Cleveland Browns knocked off the Titans on this Sunday. Are you buying this team right now? Can they make a run? Can they go deep and make it all the way to Tampa?
I don't have the confidence they can make it all the way to Tampa. I still have Cleveland about the 11th, 12th best team in that range in the NFL right now. So they're good. They're an above-average football team. But you know what? Every game is a snowflake. The Colts look great one week. They go to Tennessee. Tennessee destroys them. Tennessee look great. The next week they play Cleveland. Cleveland beats them. You know, it's just, you know, up and down a little bit. These good teams can hammer each other every once in a while, and that's kind of what happened. I think the schedule just fit perfect. The Brownies got some tough games coming up. I think they'll end that playoff drought, though. They'll be playing in the playoffs, but I don't think they'll get to the conference championship game. But it has been a good year. Baker Mayfield's been very good the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they got a couple of really good teams ahead of them in the AFC still to get there. All right, we're into the final quarter of the season. How much different do your power ratings look today than they did when this season began?
Well, the state of Florida looks good. The Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my 2 most improved teams from the beginning of the year. Miami is just, they've put everything together at the right time. Tampa, I may have been a little underrated. And I thought all the hype about Tom Brady going to Tampa, I didn't want to be on that hype train because that's, you know, that's the wrong side to be on when the general public is all on one side. But they made quite a few good additions, and Tom Brady is such a professional. He's brought that to every player on the team, and they all, you know, the quarterback does it, everybody else has to do it. So everybody's showing up early, everybody's studying the game plan, everybody's on the same page in Tampa, and that's why they've improved so much.
A big thanks to our guests, Jarrett Payton, Rob Collins, Josh Reed, Jay Pushkar, our big guest, Tom House, and Kenny White. For our producer, Spencer Wheelock, and our crew here in Grand Rapids, I'm Jack Doles. Have a great weekend.